What do you got for us?
So Christian Petracca. So some key points I want to get across this morning. If there was a way that Petracca could have got out, he would have explored it. He actually tried to find a way for several weeks, and there was no avenue for him to do that.
Can I hold you there?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he have found a way before going public with this?
Well, things get out, don't they?
I reckon that's a bit about shaking the tree, isn't it? To see where Melbourne landed on that. That might have been part of the strategy.
It is unusual, though, for it to become public unless you know there is a club that you can get to.
Yes. Well, his management told him from the very start that it would be almost impossible to orchestrate. So Petracca's view was, we don't know till we try. And since the manager works for the player, Robbie D'Orazio, he did his best in an impossible market.
Okay.
That's how it played out. Now, number 3, Petracca had several players from rival clubs reach out to him directly 2 weeks ago after the news broke. He took the calls telling one-star opposition player, that although he knew it would be hard to get out this year, it might be easier in 12 months' time.
Okay.
So do not discount it in 12 months' time. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's still very much on the radar.
Now, is that because future trades, you can trade 2 years in advance, he's a little bit older, who knows where Melbourne are at, looking to rebuild, all those reasons?
All those reasons. Yeah. Trading draft picks 2 years in advance next year gives another lever for clubs to pull. Number 4. Now, when Petracca went to Noosa, which was approved by Alan Richardson and Simon Goodwin, teammates were absolutely perplexed. They couldn't understand it. They couldn't understand why he was posting videos. They didn't understand why he wasn't at the club. Once he told them, they understood. But the club didn't tell didn't tell them because Petracca's mental health struggles were his to tell, not Alan Richardson's or Simon Goodwin's or any other official. Hence the impasse. So yesterday, Steve May and Jake Lever spoke at this panel event in Ringwood, and they both lamented the club's communication in this situation. So you can see how players can be frustrated with Petracca, how the club cannot tell the players, how Petracca, you can see how that can play out. Number 5, I think this is really important. Brand Petracca is a thing, just as it is for any other superstar player. But despite Melbourne believing it was a reason for him wanting out, I don't actually believe it was. It was a convenient excuse for the Demons to throw shade at Petracca instead of looking at themselves. So every great player has a brand, we know that, but him wanting to move from Melbourne to Collingwood wasn't about his brand.
Right.
It was about the club that he was at. It was about the Demons.
But Melbourne were using this to leak that was a reason for him wanting to go.
It was absolutely Melbourne's perspective that Brand Petracca was a reason for him wanting to go. That's true, but I don't believe it actually was a reason for him.
And were Melbourne propagating that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Overall, Christian Petracca desperately wants culture change and success. I think that's pretty clear now. Now, leaders have come around to many of his views as well. Max Gawn and him have had a number of very strong conversations. Petracca wasn't going to sit by and watch another year go to waste. He was prepared to go. If not, then he's prepared to enact serious change. And I believe this will enact serious change as well off the field. So the first here is Kate Roffey. So Jay Clark's reporting in the Herald Sun this morning. There's a push for former MCC President Stephen Smith to be the next president, possibly even taking over from the Roffey herself directly. What I can also tell you this morning is that the push for Smith to join the board is coming from inside the club as well. Now, I'm not saying people from inside the club want him to be the next president straight away, but David Robb's term is up at the end of the year, and Smith, he's seen as the perfect replacement for David Robb. A small complicating factor is that Smith's meant to be going overseas for a long time next year, which could complicate it. And there is also a view from people connected to this decision the last 2 weeks that the last 2 weeks won't help the push to get him because it's been such a nightmare. So there is change coming. Alan Richardson's contracted for next year. The club's adamant he's not going anywhere. I don't think they're going to sack the coach. But I think the CEO and the president, they're the ones that are in the gun from people outside and inside the club.
What's he want? What's Christian Petracca's utopia here? Well, I keep hearing he wants change. He's aired his grievance. What is it that he wants?
I think he wants the club and people within the club to be as highly professional and highly driven and ambitious in the same way that he is to be successful again.
Players and administrative staff and coaches.
Yeah. I don't think he thinks the club has been as aligned as what they have publicly stated they've been.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I ask you why did Christian Petracca stay at Melbourne, it's because he couldn't get out.
Yes.
What clubs had a look at this?
I think
did anyone seriously?
No. There were a number of clubs who had a look at how they could do it. For example, like Hawthorn would love to get Christian Petracca, but they were never in it because there's no way they're going to give up Will Day and all their high draft picks. It just wouldn't have suited. Carlton were adamant from the very start that there's no way this can get done. And Collingwood the same. They don't have a first round draft pick, so there was no serious deals put to the club to say we can do this. And any deal that could have been put to the club would have had to be ticked off by the board, and the board was resolute the entire way through that there's no deal you can offer us that will tick off.
So where does that leave them? What's the fallout now in the next weeks and months? What do you think the first step that Melbourne would be looking for now? It's the Brand Petracca stuff had to have come from the other side, and now Christian goes back into that fold, understanding that has been propagated in some shape or form. Are we going to get another off-season of Melbourne culture questions?
Well, that's one of those questions that is hard to answer because we don't exactly know which changes are going to be made. But footy clubs, as you guys would know, have a good way of healing themselves once they all get back together for pre-season. And I think given now that Gawn and Petracca and Lever and Steve May and these guys are back on the same page, by and large, I think it will heal itself. But you wouldn't want to have a poor 2025 if you're Melbourne Football Club. You wouldn't want Simon Goodwin or any other assistant coach or the CEO or the president to not be aligned with where the rest of the club is.
And the elephant in the room is Clayton Oliver. I mean, what's he get paid, Clayton Oliver?
Well, his 7-year deal, if you include full TPP, is upwards of $10 million.
So he's their highest paid player who largely hasn't been spoken about this. What's his relationship like with Christian Petracca?
I think it's okay. I mean, they know each other really well. But Petracca's issue wasn't with Oliver. It was with the way the club handled Oliver for a long period of time and the communication around that. So I don't think people like to say, oh, Petracca wants out because he doesn't like the coach or he doesn't like Oliver. That's wrong, and that's far too simplistic.
Will Sam Docherty play?
I think he's every chance to play. Carlton teammates believe that he's going to play.
Really?
He's just got to tick a couple of boxes this week.
They want him to play?
They want him to play, and they believe that he will play. It's not locked in yet, but that's as confident as I can be.
There's a little bit to be said for that.
For the push from the teammates,
Absolutely.
you would listen to that as a coach?
Well, I think if that is part of it, and you put a body of work that he's done, and none of the three of us know that, but what's he done? What hurdles has he jumped ahead of schedule? But yes, if your teammates, if you've got a sense of destiny and your teammates want you in there, that counts for a little bit when you get to selection.
One of his teammates is Nick Newman, one of the Blues' better players, is going to join us after 8 o'clock. We will be asking him that question. Some re-signing news?
Yeah, at St Kilda. So they've got about 15 players out of contract at the moment. Mason Wood, he's signed a 3-year deal.
3 years?
Yeah, I thought you'd enjoy this. 31 years old. He turns 31 in a couple of weeks. So he signed for 3 years to the end of 2027.
Good story, though. Like,
Yeah.
essentially
Excellent.
got the sack from North, really,
Yeah,
delisted.
He's pretty durable now.
Yeah.
Dan Butler signed a 2-year deal, end of 2026. It's a big week for Tim Membry as well, with some key meetings. He's a free agent.
Any interest?
I'm sure there
other
is interest.
clubs?
Yeah, I'm sure there is. I don't know where, but I'm sure there is interest. But he's a free agent because he was delisted by the Swans when Adam Goods decided to play another year. So there was no list spot for him. If Adam Goods had retired a year earlier, Membry might still be at the Swans. So that's why he's a free agent
What
now.
about Cooper Carey?
If I'm
Sharman?
the Demons, I'm looking at Membry.
Memory.
Yeah.
Another. What did Melbourne want? Another one of those types?
What do you mean those types?
Well,
An effective
McAdam.
forward?
No. How many actually get a main man?
I understand that.
Another bit part
No, but-
player at the age of 30, 31,
30,
32?
yeah.
No, I understand that, but I'm not talking about him being your main man. But it doesn't hurt to have that sort of go-to on your list.
Mac Andrew.
Hang on, I just wanted to ask you about Cooper Carey,
I'm not
Cooper
sure.
Sharman.
Don't know.
If he's not,
Don't know what's happening there.
surely there'd be some interest there. Love him.
Yeah.
I don't know why he doesn't have a contract. Ridiculous. Anyway, move
Agreed.
on.
But Zach Jones is also out of contract. Ben Patton's out of contract. Mac Andrew. Now, I told you a few weeks ago that his next contract would be about $1 million a year.
You did
I was actually wrong. I put my hand up.
more.
Oh, no.
More?
My understanding is one Victorian club has told his manager, Ashley Blair from PSM, that they are prepared to offer $1.5 million per year for 8 years. So that's a $12 million deal. Now, when I took this proposition to Blair, he said, and I quote, Mac will beat the Suns in 2025 and we're working closely with them on a longer term deal. So it's not for this year, it's for next year. A $12 million
Would that
deal
be
across
the
8 years.
biggest contract in AFL history. It would be,
$12
wouldn't it?
$12 million deal. I mean, you look at him, you look at Andrew Brayshaw, and you look at Chad Warner. They're the three for next year. Like, there's so much money in the game
And
now.
then the Harley Reid one.
Put them in order. So Mac Andrew,
Yeah.
who are you saying? Mac
Chad
Andrew,
Warner.
Chad Warner.
Andrew Brayshaw.
Yeah.
Brayshaw's a free agent.
Yeah, well, Mac Andrews at the top of that.
Yeah.
Just because his roles are the
Yeah,
hardest to fill.
then Warner and then Brayshaw somewhat.
Correct.
Yeah,
a fair way away from those two.
Yeah.
But what about Harley Reid? Like, is this a
Mm.
watch? Like, if you're looking at this and his management going, Mac Andrew, 1.5 for 8 years, $12 million. Harley Reid's at a club that I think is going to get worse before they get better with a new coach that they don't even have yet. I know it's 2 years away, but this is
could be anything.
that's the one.
Yeah, it
that
could
I'm
be
looking
anything.
at.
In 24 months' time, Harley
Yeah.
Reid, if he's out of contract, will be worth ridiculous numbers.
Mm.
Yeah, that'll dwarf the 12 million over 8 for Mac Andrew. So I don't know who the club is, but you can probably take a guess. I mean, there's some clubs with money in Victoria.
Have a guess.
My guess would,
North,
yeah, or a St Kilda or a Hawthorn,
Essendon.
Essendon.
Mm.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of Essendon, Jake Stringer.
So as we reported last Monday night, Stringer's hit a clause in his contract, which means he has a deal for next year at Essendon. Now, as all good journalists do, Cal Toomey followed this up, and he followed this up from Spain. He was in Spain when he reported this
Long
story.
distance.
Good
Yeah,
effort.
he reported Stringer is due $400K next year, and he hit the trigger because he's played more than 36 games across 23 and 24. Jake Stringer's message to rival clubs is very clear now, given Essendon don't want to come for that second year. Come and offer me a 2-year deal, and I'll seriously consider it. So I don't know which club that would be, but Stringer would prefer to stay at Essendon. But
Why doesn't he just back himself in? Why
Well,
don't you say,
career security matters, doesn't it?
yeah, it's,
So if you're gonna
it's
get
1
2-year
year though.
deals.
Just back yourself in and have a huge preseason, make a statement on day one preseason, have a big year, and you may get 3 years after that. Like,
He's open to anything. And another club who can offer 2 years would have him
I
seriously
love this. I
considering.
love the way Essendon have played this.
Yeah, you do. You like
Couldn't
that,
have
don't you?
played it any better.
Yeah, yeah. On Essendon, quick one, AFLW. Essendon is hopeful that Bonnie Toogood has hurt an MCL. It's not an ACL. Now, Darcy Cameron missed 7 weeks with a high-grade MCL last year, but low-grade ones can be 2 to 3 weeks, so we'll know more today. There is also some news out of the Gold Coast with Alex Davies. So Collingwood and Geelong have lodged an interest, but nothing more than that just yet. Now, both clubs have priorities elsewhere. The Suns have offered a 2-year deal, but Davies wants senior footy. So I wouldn't be surprised if this escalates towards the trade period with him and those two clubs, Geelong and Collingwood. Alex Witherden, what do you do here as a coach, Bucks? So Adam Simpson was sacked, but 2 weeks before he was sacked, he told Alex Witherden that the club is going to give him a 2-year deal.
Yep.
Then he gets sacked, and now Witherden's future looks less clear. That's not binding, is it, in any way?
Well, I call BS on that for the first part because the coach doesn't tell you what your contract's going to be.
Okay.
What about the battle for Andrew Brayshaw?
Well, this is what we just discussed briefly. But Fremantle want to extend him beyond free agency, which is next year. But watch clubs come from the clouds for him. I don't have any inclination that he will leave, but he's a very attractive player. Partly because he's a free agent, but next year, but also because he's durable, he's a leader, he's reliable, he's consistent. All
Be
those
hard
sorts
to
of
leave
things.
Fremantle, I reckon. Like, the prospect that they can win a premiership is real in the next 2 to 3 years to be a part of their first ever premiership. And I know you've got to take into all factors, but I'm sure they can pay him what he's worth. But that would be a big call for him. You got something coming through?
Yeah, just from the AFL. The AFL is pleased to announce the introduction of the Ron Barassi Medal, which will be awarded to the captain of the premiership winning team on grand final day. Do we
All
like
right.
this?
Love it.
Yep.
Bucks?
Bucks?
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.